I'm Tim. This is Chris. You saw Chris earlier. We're going to talk about Purple certification today. I'm going to talk about what we've done up till this point, and then Chris is going to take over and talk a little bit about some of the ideas the community has and things we can do to improve certification. So I thought I'd start off with talking a little bit about the problem that we've experienced, or that certification solves. So the CPE industry, a lot of you are in this room, so you're aware of it. We have different middleware platforms that take open source softwares. Sometimes in particular they've added proprietary things as part of that. This increases fragmentation. So there's, a lot of the presentations we've had today, people have talked about the importance of, everybody working together, contributing things to the open source, to the Purple community, and then putting it back out. A lot of people think when you do that, it, causes less fragmentation, which often isn't actually the case. What happens is people take those open source projects and they use that evil word for developers, they fork it, they take it, and then they build something slightly different, and that causes more problems. So what Purple determined, and this was really, this predates my involvement with Purple, but they thought, hey, certification, that can help solve this issue. So this confirms that the middleware platforms are following all of these wonderful APIs that the community is contributing to, and we want to make sure that those solutions work. So that's how certification helps these middleware platforms, operators, and our next slide talks about a little bit about this. So the goals here for operators are making sure that that their footprints will work the way that they want. Certification makes a lot of sense for operators for a lot of reasons. It gives them the idea of what they're deploying, how it works, that they'll be able to trust what's going out in the field. On the CPE vendor side, it actually helps them a lot knowing what operators want. The certification makes it very clear what requirements you have, you know how to meet them. There's not a whole lot of ambiguity, which is great. Apps, this is a newer thing. LCM, a lot of people have talked about that today. Application developers, this will allow them to know their stuff's going to work. When they deploy an app, it'll run. Right now, if you talk to a lot of the application people, what they've had to do in the past is get every CPE, make sure that their app can run on it. This is our way of helping that community lower their bar for all the testing they have to do. So those are the goals that we have as a certification working group. Excuse me. All right, so how did we do it? So the way we did this was we created a working group. It's a testing certification working group that meets every other Monday. They were supposed to meet today. I canceled today's meeting. We meet every other Monday, and we talk about different test cases, test solutions, how we go about doing it. A couple of things, I know Mike mentioned this morning in the keynote. It's self-testing, so it's kind of unique. A lot of certification programs have labs for very good reasons, things like the Wi-Fi Alliance, you heard Kevin talking about that, works really well. Purple's sort of unique in that it can leverage a lot of other programs, and so we can get away doing self-certification, which is pretty cool. We do everything, there's a public website, everything's posted there. You can see who's been certified, which is nice. The other thing that's come up a lot is what kind of certifications do we have, and so I just want to be clear about this. We have three. We have Purpleware, which is the one that exists today that you can do, and that focuses on Purple OS, the high-level API, LCM, and Purple Mesh. And then on the other side, we have applications, which you saw next steps is going to be an area we're investigating, and then low-level deliverables I'll talk about more, but that's on the SOC board side of things. This is a little slide just telling people how, hey, this is how you get certified. Talks, you do run the testing, you take your device, you test it against the test tool, you submit results to a certification review committee. We take a look at it. One thing that we have to do, because we don't have a low level, you have to ship the device to us. We pop the hood, we take a look at it, we make sure that it's running true Purple OS with the right Linux kernel and the correct OpenWRT version so that we know it's actually Purple underneath. In the future, you will be able to have a test tool that will do that for you, which will be wonderful. But right now, that's the one step we do have that's takes a little bit of time because you have to ship the device. We look at it, we review it. We then send you, hey, these things everything looks great. Oh, you ran this test wrong. Things were configured wrong, or your Linux kernel is incorrect. Can you please update? People will do that, and then we list you. It's actually pretty easy, pretty painless. Speaking of painless, these are the devices we have certified. So we have a couple of fast track devices, our reference platforms on here, and then we have a whole set of people. All the pending ones, those just came in. We have, as I said, there's a shipping. I think a lot of people wanted to have their devices listed for this event. So there's a bunch of pending ones. Several of these are approved and moving to there's a small fee we'd have to cover for actually reviewing the device. So Purple opens, like I said, we look at it. So we have a nominal fee. It's like $1,500 that you pay, and then you get listed. And that's really just for the review. So those are the devices we currently have. As you can see, they vary from 3.2, 3.1, and 4.0. So we have a wide variety for, our goal is to support 2 years worth of releases at any given time. So you can go forward and backwards depending on what you're doing. Okay, new certifications, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chris. New certs, low-level certification. This is something we're actively working on today. This is really trying to help the SOC vendors, low-level people, make sure that they're implementing the low-level API. We're working on a test tool that will run directly on the devices so that people can run the testing and make sure that their device has the right kernel, is running the right drivers, running the right Linux commands. All of those things we've included. The newer, more fun one that everyone wants to talk about, apps. So, we're going to start working on that this year. I think it's a little undefined. Obviously, our goal here is to help those application vendors make sure they work in the Purple ecosystem, and that's going to really be our goal. So we're going to work with that community to do that. Another thing we're going to do this year, we don't have a ton of LCM and Purple Mesh test plans in our current Purpleware, so we're going to add some individual test cases and work with the both of those working groups to add some individual tests. And then Chris?
Oh, good. Okay. Thanks, Tim. So what I've been looking at a little bit is how we can make certification better, cheaper, faster. And these are more concepts. They need some work streams around them. But when, as we've been working through things, one of the areas that are challenges, and this isn't specific to Purple itself, but it affects people trying to implement Purple. And that is test platforms. Having a test platform that is consistent, and there's things that you can do to ensure that test platforms are consistent, and then having the automation availability is something that would benefit the industry. And then there's this concept of shifting left. So shifting left means shifting on the x-axis or shifting in time back. We're doing some of that with the reference platforms, and that gives operators, manufacturers confidence in the platform. But I think there's the opportunity there to actually take some of the testing done on that particular platform and apply it forward. So you kind of get credit for these things. And then having a one-stop shop. I mean, Purple certification, and Tim and his working group have done a phenomenal job in Purple, and they've got a very robust roadmap going forward. But as I think we all know, that's just one piece of what's required to bring a router to market. We had some panelists up here earlier with Wi-Fi Alliance and the Broadband Forum. It would be nice from an efficiency perspective to bring all this together into a one-stop shop where someone can go get all the certification necessary, whether it's self-certification or maybe a third party. And then, this is something at Verizon we constantly look at, although we constantly have to look at it, and that's test case reduction. We've got a lot of proprietary test cases and certification programs. How can we leverage what's already in the industry and potentially deprecate some of our test cases? Hey, one other thing, I missed one point on the shift left as well, and this is hard to do, but I think it would pay a lot of benefits. In the Android ecosystem, they introduced several releases ago the concept of a generic system image, or the GSI. And what it would allow you to do is take a binary and deploy it on just about any, at least in theory, any Android device. Very hard to do. They're easy to say, hard to do. But I think there's a lot of benefits of that. I could just speak for Verizon. If we're just within our ecosystem of routers, if we're able to develop a binary that we can robustly test once on one platform and then regression test on other platforms, there's a lot of benefits that comes from that, from just using resources, time to market, et cetera. So that's something I'm also pushing for. Okay, so I think that's it.